Hi, this is Christine with Eden Development. Today I'd like to walk you through the peer-to-peer donations activity type in the Salsa Engage data source with Importacular. You can see I'm already in Importacular and I've already selected the data source of Salsa Engage and I've already selected my activity type of peer-to-peer donations. I have backdated my fetch activity from just in order to have sample data to pull through for this demonstration. But the fetch activity date from will default to the last time you opened this activity type. The fetch activity date 2 will default to when you opened this area. So let's go ahead and click OK and we can begin. Once it's processed and we can see that we are in our data source, we do have records to review, we can go ahead and select our template. So I'm going to work with my peer-to-peer donations template, and I'm going to click here so that we can edit and view that template. Again, this is an already created template, so if you're starting with a fresh template from scratch, you will need to begin with a constituent mapping. That's not something you've done before. We do have other videos that walk through that, as well as videos that walk through addresses. So I'm going to skip over those areas, but just so you can tell, I do have information mapped there in order to correctly identify my constituents and add all of the appropriate information to their records. What I want to focus on for the purpose of this demonstration is the information that we would work with on the gift tab. So the peer-to-peer donation activity type works with donations that are made in response to peer-to-peer fundraising forms. So there may be lots of things that you would want to do with that data. For example, that you would want to bring in the donations, of course, but then how do you want to track those peer-to-peer donations? So are you tracking the fundraisers with appeals? Are you tracking the fundraisers as solicitors? Are you working with the fundraisers as a gift attribute or possibly some other method? For the purpose of this demonstration, I have tracked that fundraiser name and form as a gift attribute, but we do have other options available. I've also chosen to work with the dedication that says in honor of or in memory of as a gift attribute, but we do have functionality within Importacular that can do things like a solicitor or a tribute rather than these two gift attributes, but those are additional paid areas. So if you're interested in those areas, please let our team know. That said, let's go ahead and take a look at our gift mapping. So you can see here that our gift mapping has a mixture of source fields and default values. I've chosen my donation amount from the available API fields. You can see those here. And I've added the campaign using a default value. I've worked with my donation date, my fund. We could also use a field from our file. So for example, I do have a designation field here. So if I wanted to work with that as my fund instead of the annual fund value that I've set as a default, I can select this here. If those designations map exactly to the funds in Razor's Edge, then this is all I need to do. If they don't map exactly, then I would need to work with my field settings and create some data transformations here to make sure that the information in the designation table goes directly into the correct fund. So, for example, if the designations field had something that said relief, I could put the word relief in the from source. I can come to my find now and I can select my International Relief Fund, and then I could use a match type to decide if I want to work with with an exact phrase or maybe just a word in that phrase. And then I could say maybe if everything else that's not in that relief fund goes to the annual fund, then I could add the annual fund as a catch-all. Of course, this is not meant to be a complete tutorial on how to do a data transformation, but it's just meant to give you an idea of how those transformations could help you map this into your template. We've also got our gift post date and post type. We have our receipt amount, which is the donation deductible, amount. And we do have the option to do something with a reference. Just as a side note, you do have options here for other fields. So you could work with the common fields or you could work with the common and scheduled. You usually do not want to pick anything with the scheduled unless you're actually working with a gift that contains a schedule. So if you're importing a recurring gift, not to be confused with a recurring gift payment, or if you're importing a pledge, then you would need those scheduled fields, but you don't want to add those unless you need them. Otherwise, you can end up with some exceptions based on required fields that aren't being filled. So I'm going to leave this on those common fields. Let's go ahead and save this mapping and take a quick look at the fundraiser form. So as I mentioned earlier, I am working with my fundraiser here as a gift attribute. If you track those fundraisers in other places and need access to paid areas in order to do that, please do let our team know, and we're happy to give you a trial or walk you through how you could do that. But for right now, I've chosen to map that information here in a gift attribute because that is included for all Salsa Engage users. So you can see that I have a category in Razor's Edge called form name, and I've chosen to use the fundraiser page URL as the description, the activity date as the date, and the comment is the peer-to-peer fundraiser's name. You do have some other fields available there, so it depends on where and how you want to work with that information. Finally, I have a dedication. So again, you might want to do that as a tribute, but I've chosen to do that here as a gift attribute. I've used my names giving opportunity category. I have the dedication text, so the person being honored in the description, and I have the dedication type in the comments. So that's just where I've chosen to put that information. It's not to determine your fundraising and database practices, but just to show you an option and just to give you an idea of some of the data that is available in this API. Once you have those gifts mapped and everything set, you can close that template. And at this point, you would add a control report. I do recommend you use a fresh one every time, but for right now, we're just going to click on this one. And once that's ready, you can continue, and that will process your information, and it will match your constituents from your Salsa Engage criteria to the constituents already in Razor's Edge. So as I have already been working with this data, you can see that both of my records here are set to update. That's because the information in Salsa Engage matched people in Razor's Edge, and ImportAcular has chosen to update these records rather than create new constituents in Razor's Edge. As always, you do have control over how those mappings are done. That would happen in your criteria sets. And we do have some other resources on that. So if you have any questions, happy to help point you to those resources. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and close this out. We have other resources that walk you through reviewing this data and committing the batch. So I'm going to leave you to those videos. But if you have any questions about any of these areas, or if there's anything we can do to help you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much and have a great day.